Well, Mr. Rouhani has delivered his first speech as the new president. He says his government will take fresh steps towards promotion of Iran's status on the international stage and removing imposed sanctions.
به موازات آن در عرصه روابط بین المللی
At the international stage, the government will take fresh steps in line with promotion of Iran's status on the basis of national interest and removal of brutal sanctions.
Rouhani added that his government will adopt moderate policies in running the country. He stressed that the government will distance itself from extremist approaches and will instead focus on meeting the people's demands. The Iranian president also described the June presidential election as a great show of democracy and praised the high voter turnout. Well, looking a little bit further at this issue of the new Iranian president, let's switch over right here in Tehran, joined by Professor University of Tehran, Mr. Foad Izadi. Thank you so much for being with us. Well, let's start off with the leader of the Iran's Islamic Revolution has said and talked about the significance of the peaceful transfer of power, especially these days when we look at what's happening around the world. Your perspective?
Yes, I think what we are seeing in Iran is quite unique. We live in a region that either doesn't have elections in certain countries, kingdoms, emirates, places that really don't hold any types of serious elections, or we have countries that do hold elections, but then they have coup d'etats, they have different difficulties with transfer of power, peaceful transfer of power. When you see a country in this region that is not only not a kingdom, it's a democracy, functioning democracy, and it has elected officials that give up power peacefully, is a sign that the country has advanced drastically since the days of kingdom here. As you remember, we had a kingdom in Iran not too long ago, 30-some years ago. And the fact that you see the political system transferring into a system where people's vote and people's voice is heard, I think it is a major development for this part of the world. The fact that 72% of people participated in the elections is also another sign that the country not only is holding elections, but the people who live in the country actually accept the system this much that they actually take part in the elections that the current government has. And overall, I think this is a sign that the pressures that some of the Western countries have had on Iran is not really giving them the results that they are hoping for.
Well, let's look at that, Mr. Izadi. You just alluded to the pressures from some Western countries. And interestingly enough, there were many that expected, as far as Washington, because it appeared for some that they were showing some signs of being optimistic when Mr. Rouhani was elected and perhaps being able to, as they say, deal better with this current administration. However, excuse me, prior now to the actual taking of office by Mr. Rouhani, we have seen U.S. Congress, we've seen the majority of the senators actually trying to go for more sanctions against Iran. So what exactly does that say about the relationship between the United States and Iran?
Well, it's quite clear. I don't think anybody can doubt this fact that there are some people in the U.S. Congress, in fact, majority of them, 400 of them out of 435, that do not want to resolve this issue of Iran's nuclear program in a proper manner. They want to pressure Iran more. They want to overthrow, basically, the Iranian government. And they're not interested in a solution that is acceptable to both sides. And they have been doing that for the last 30 years or so. And this policy has really failed. We have a minority within the U.S. Congress and outside the U.S. Congress that have realized this fact, that overthrowing the Iranian government is just a wishful dream. It's not going to happen. And in fact, it's detrimental to U.S. foreign policy to alienate Iran, being a powerful country in this region. And actually, we have a situation in the United States where the Israeli lobby has so much power that the U.S. national interests becomes a second priority, and Israeli interest becomes the first priority in the U.S. Congress. as you know, some of the U.S. Media outlets, Voice of America and BBC, Persian, other media outlets were asking people not to participate in the elections, the elections about a few weeks ago here. And you saw the people of Iran basically saying no over and over to these demands from the other side. When you look at the public opinion polls, Iran's nuclear program is quite popular. So this new president actually gives a chance to some of these countries that have had problems with Iran to change their policies. They can reset their relations with Iran. But based on what we saw in the U.S. Congress, I don't think the U.S. government is taking advantage of that opportunity.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Foad Izadi, Professor, University of Tehran, right here in Tehran with us.